Hello and welcome to It's the Numbers Game. Most MSPs know they should start collecting more client testimonials. The problem is that asking can feel awkward. Getting clients on camera can feel even harder. And then there's the question of what you actually do with the content afterwards. So in this episode, Dan is joined by James Steele, founder of MSP Testimonials. And he helps MSPs and technology vendors capture customer stories and turn them into powerful marketing content. Today, using a real MSP finance team client as an example, James walks through the whole process. How to make the initial ask, prepare the client, structure the interview, and uncover the story behind the relationship. They also explore how one good conversation can be repurposed into video, case studies, social content, website material, and even content that can help MSPs get found through AI and search. It is a very practical episode about turning happy clients into one of the most credible marketing assets an MSP can have. And just one minor point before we get going, we had some issues with the quality of the recordings and some corruption. We think we fixed it, but right at the start, the first voice you will hear is James, not Dan. We couldn't recover the very first introduction from Dan. But anyway, enjoy the episode.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here. I have to say it's wonderful to be here. I don't know if it is yet. We'll have to see how this goes, really.
Well, we can re-record the opening if you don't believe it to be wonderful once we've been through the process.
Okay. Well, we'll review and come back to that. Thank you. It's great to be here. You're one of the top podcasts around and you're into, hundreds of episodes now. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me and for it taking a little while to get me on, but that's fine.
Exactly right. I feel bad because we always see each other at events and get on well, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to have you on. So, but worth the wait for our listeners because we've got a really interesting approach to today's episode. So MSP Testimonials is your business, and we wanted to build on the previous episode where we looked particularly at the written version of case studies. And today we're obviously going to talk specifically about video, ironically on an audio-only podcast.
But it's really going to come across well, isn't it? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. What we are going to do, though, is use a real-life example. So Adam and I, MSP Finance team, we have a new or recent client in a new territory, and they very kindly agreed to be a reference site case study testimonial for us. I'll come back to the difference between those three things shortly. And so we're at the planning stage ourselves as to, well, what do we want to do? How are we going to use that? How do we go through the process with the client? And I'm really excited to have you as a guide on this journey for us.
Yeah, nice one. I think this is quite a nice way to unpack it, actually, to apply it to your scenario. So, I mean, what we do, obviously we lead with video, but the real power these days, and it's kind of really been a great timing from our perspective, because with AI being moving as quickly as it is, it now makes it really easy to repurpose materials. So that's why this is really powerful. So while we do focus on the video, it's all the great stuff that we get out of it at the other end, which is really where the gold is. But yeah, back to your scenario, that's great. Well, I think one of the key objections that we see, I think a lot of people look at this and think, I know I should be doing this. Most people know they should be doing this, but there's something in their minds whether it's the kind of that imbalance of like, we've sold this customer a service and they've paid a fair price. And I don't really want to go and bother them with this stuff. That's the resistance. Also, another objection, as you mentioned, is sort of once we do this, what on earth do we do with all that? What on earth do we do with the content? We're not marketers. We don't really know. So I think it's really good to sort of unpack that. The ask is the big thing, honestly. That is it. I think just doing it, that's like, if you're listening to this, the one massive takeaway is people actually respond far more positively than you would think to being asked. It's just that people don't ask. They put up these barriers. So in our scenario, lovely, happy days, you've got permission. So that we're already ahead of the game there. That's really good. So then it's about briefing the client so they're not terrified and that you don't ruin a perfectly good relationship by trying to put this project together.
And to be honest, that was part of my ask, was to set the expectation And you're exactly right. The anxiety built up in me beforehand, even though we, as part of our review process, we'd had regular contact, and the client was expressing happiness, gratitude, enjoyment, improvements as a result of what we were doing. It is asking that question that's then the point in time. Are you really happy enough to tell other people that you like us too and what we've done? And and thankfully I was very happy to take part. So I set the initial expectation. We'd like to do a video interview. We'd like to write a case study, and I would be in touch with the next steps. But I didn't know what the next steps were. So what do I do first?
Yeah, I mean, we do an awful lot. So we obviously go totally over and above what you need to. But in terms of this, you just don't overthink it. So the way that it typically works for us is we get that warm intro from an MSP or from a tech vendor. And then the first email we're sending out is, so the first contact is just an email. That's it. So it's something we will follow up as well if we don't hear, but it's just a simple email. And I think the important thing there is just to outline. So when the intro is made, that tends to be like 2 lines. It's literally just, hey, look, we've loved working with you guys. If you'd be open to it, we work with a third party, MSP Testimonials. In this case, it's just, we'd just love to capture this on video. We'll turn it into some materials and it'll be great for you. And you can just leave it there, I think. And if they're open to it, at that point, then it's a case of saying to them, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen and what's in it for you. So when I was thinking about how we designed our outreach process, and it's evolved, as you'd imagine, but it's kind of, there's a combination there you need to get right. Obviously, it's making sure people know how much time is going to be involved. When we started doing these, they were like 60 minutes, and we tried to reduce it down to like 40 now. I think is quite a nice time. Some testimonial companies will do 15-minute chat, in and out, done. And that could be, if you're doing it yourself, you could probably do this in a much shorter space of time. I love it because we can have deep conversations, and I'm always thinking, oh, okay, this is great. So I'm only going to produce a 4-minute, nice, actionable video, but everything they're saying and stories can go anywhere. This is the fun part of this, is that when you're talking to them, stories can go all over. All of that is great if you plan on doing all sorts of other content, case studies, LinkedIn posts, landing pages, whatever it might be. So it's nice to spend a bit of time with them. But what we're doing is we're just outlining how long it's going to take. And we're also reiterating the benefit to them. So there's additional eyeballs on their brand. There's the fact that they've got SEO backlinks are always useful. So there's a real tangible benefit there. We've actually started doing a cut for them. So we actually do, like, for the person we're interviewing, we'll say, look, we'll do you a video based on your intro and a bit more, which is basically just, hey, whatever, I'm from Piper Roofing. I'm John from Piper Roofing, and this is what we do, and this is who we serve, and blah, blah, blah. And so just having a segment that's just a standalone 60-second ad effectively for them, that's one of the things we give to them as a nice little sweetener, but you don't need to. You don't need to. Just outline those things, and then just make the process as easy as possible. So we just set up a simple form. You can use Calendly, capture a little bit of information from them. So they just literally, they're booking in a time. They're giving you, the way we do it is we capture a little bit up front about what it was like. So they've got an idea of what we're going to talk about, what it was like before working with you, what they like most about working with you now. We actually have a whole thing where we get them to use their phones, and we send out tripods and all that stuff. So we ask them what phone they're using and all that. Again, slim it right down. You don't need to do a lot of that stage. And then when the form gets completed, they automatically then get a recording guide. So I'm going to set up, with your permission, I'm going to set up a msptestimonials.com/MS. Sorry, it's a numbers game. And that'll have some resources. So it'll basically have these things for you, so you can see exactly what it is you send, a sample recording guide that you could use. And the recording guide is really important because it gets them understanding, okay, what do they need to do on camera, puts their mind at rest. So far, we've literally just had a couple of emails.
One of the most common conversations I have with MSP owners goes like this. We're busy, clients are happy, but the numbers never quite look how I think they should. And almost every time it comes back to the same thing. Not effort, not demand, but how the business is being valued and priced. And if I'm honest, it often runs a bit deeper than that. A lot of owners quietly undervalue what they do. They don't fully recognize the weight of responsibility, the experience they've built, or the impact they have on their clients' businesses. So pricing ends up lower than it should be, not by a design, but by a belief. It's incredibly common. We see it all the time. And it's something we help MSP owners work through in a structured, practical way, so the numbers start to reflect the true value of what they deliver. If any of this resonates, it's worth having a conversation. So just head over to mspfinanceteam.com and book a slot in my diary, or email me at adam@mspfinanceteam.com.
Amazing. And I think you're answering questions almost as though I'm thinking of them. So a well-rehearsed process. So you've answered how long, well, first of all, the order of things. Everything emanates from the recording of the video interview. And from that, you extract the story that will be told later on in the case study and woven into the way that you present in the other assets that you create from this. And you've told me how long that session should be, the length of the interview video that you're aiming for. And I guess we've so far only talked about my anxiety as the initiator of the testimonial, but the poor client, they've got to go on camera, and this is not everyone's comfort zone, right?
Daniel, you know what? I think this is the favorite part of my job. It really is. So people turn up stony-faced, reluctant, and they're doing this because they like your brand. We know they're doing you a favor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the putting them at ease stage, which is really quite fun, because this doesn't have to be a negative experience. And I love the transition. And what I tend to do is when I start talking to them is I'll know that the first 5 minutes are a write-off. So you kind of ask them a few sort of just random questions, maybe do the intro. Everyone's comfortable normally with an intro. And then maybe if that wasn't great, come back to it again at the end and get them to record it again. But by the time you get into it and you just put them at ease and they realize, hang on a minute, this is just a video call. This is absolutely fine. There's a real transformation. And what I love about it that comes out from an account management perspective is I've been doing these for MSPs, and the person you're talking to starts to say things like, yeah, so since I've been using this provider, they've enabled me to, in my meetings with clients, I'm now able to, there was a charity actually that was for autism charity. I can now do referrals on the fly in a meeting with my clients. You call them clients, but they're people you're helping. These are families that are under lots of stress and don't have much time. So the fact that you could do that referral in the meeting has meant that saved them an awful amount of stress. The whole thing has been a much smoother experience. And there's like a light bulb moment in the actual client you're interviewing that although they're doing this stuff, they're like, oh, actually, you know what? That's absolutely invaluable. I really do appreciate that coming from, this is something that our IT provider provide. And it's just it's almost like reiterating the value that they're getting from the provider. So it's almost like an account management call in a way, because it's like, let's just talk about how great the company is and what you think. You tell me how much you love them and how much you want to stay with them, and who knows how much you want to spend more with them, essentially. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to really sort of have a good chat, put them at ease, and use it as an account management thing as well.
And of course, the client will naturally, in your circumstance where you're producing the video and the assets as a third party, they're gonna talk in a different way than they would do perhaps to the client, even or the MSP. Sorry, even if there's nothing negative to say, they may just feel more comfortable talking about them to you rather than talking to them about them.
Yeah, that much is true. Yeah, it's hard to deny that. I mean, I think it depends who you're. Often it tends to be they'll reference like the CEO they deal with or whatever, or the senior member of staff in the team. So if this is something that as an MSP, if you're listening to this and you get maybe a junior member of the team, they might be more likely to open up to someone who isn't that person. But yeah, there's definitely a benefit there, of course. I'm not going to play that down too much. There is the fact that it's a fresh face definitely helps. Yeah.
Okay, so in fact, going back to one of my next question will be about how you structure the interview in order to not presumably have some leading questions or something to encourage people to talk.
Oh, no, we just wing it, Daniel.
I can't believe that at all. You're Mr. Prepared you are.
It's an absolute science.
You've worked it out to every millimeter of the episode. But before we get into that, what exactly is the difference between a reference, testimonial, and a case study? Is there indeed a difference, or are they interchangeable, mingled?
I mean, I don't know how open I should be about this on the podcast, but when
no one's listening.
No, that's good. Okay, that's just as well then. If it's just you and me, that's fine. So our branding, I suppose, if you look at it, is possibly quite misleading, because I think that the main difference between a testimonial and a case study is normally just kind of length, really. Like a testimonial is more, it tends to be a kind of a sound bite, whereas a case study you kind of regard as being something that's far more comprehensive. Well, if you look at our package, we do a 4-minute punchy video, which is that's testimonial element, but then we do an 8-page written case study that goes with it, and other asset, the landing page stuff, and the shorts to go with it, and the social graphics and all that stuff. So you could argue that actually it should be MSP case studies, but yeah, we had to sort of pick one. So MSP testimonials is possibly a little bit, it should be MSP testimonial content systems or something really catchy like that, maybe.
I think testimonials is the right word, and I think it's a word that I'm going to use moving forwards as well.
All right, let's go with that then. Yeah. I'm in favour.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so the big day has arrived. We're on the video call. The client is now at ease. Do you have some standard questions that you'd use?
Yeah, so just wind it back just a step before that. So I mentioned about this recording guide, so I'll make sure that's available as a download for anyone listening, so you can just grab that. That's really quite important. That just makes sure that, for me, the biggest thing for me is lighting. I went down the route when we first started this, sending kit out, getting the lighting for them to use and stuff. Don't do that. Because you just end up with people attempting to use gear that they have no idea about, and it's just not the way forward at all. So natural light is the king. So you need to make sure that when you're sending out a recording guide, you're getting some beautiful natural light, so you're getting them right up close to the window if possible. Literally just a tripod on the window, so if possible. I'd say if you can, try and record with a phone. It does add a slight element of complexity, so totally up to you. If you just want to absolutely just do this as simple as possible, then just get a laptop, put it by the window. That's absolutely fine, and a decent webcam. And so on the day, so basically once you've got the recording there, then it's just a case of making sure they know roughly about sort of framing. So obviously no one can see this, I can't really help you there, but there's a small amount of room above your head, and making sure it's sort of head and shoulders in view and that sort of stuff. So things like that, getting them ready for that, getting ready for the chat. I also give them a little brief on some of the things which help in terms of the delivery. So things like making sure that they know about the fact that the camera dulls the energy. So I'll often say to them, look, I know this might seem a bit awkward. Yeah, so basically making sure that people know about the framing, as we just talked about, and just a couple of key things, like the energy is really important. So feel free to be smiley on camera. This is something when you start talking about it, when I'm doing these myself, people sort of go, oh no, he wants me to be all happy and smiley. This is terrible. What have I done? And then a couple of minutes in, I'll often say to them, like, can you just do that again? Would you mind just do it one more time? Because I know that the energy was much higher here than it was at the beginning, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of coaching in there, but again, dial it back. And what we're after here for you guys, if you're listening, is the main thing is just yes, we need that video, and it's got to be to a good standard, but the transcript is where the gold is there. That's what's going to let you do loads of different materials. So you don't necessarily need to sweat that it's the absolute perfect delivery. And then we're up to, and I'm now back to where you actually started your question, which was the day of the recording, right?
Yes, I'd actually forgotten the question, to be honest.
Crikey. Is this what it's going to be like if we wind forward like another 30 years? It's just sort of just losing our threads randomly.
Exactly. But no, you are exactly answering the question, because it was about, it's the day of recording. If you've got some questions to prompt the client to think about what the experience has been like, and express that, and hopefully capture that gold that you will talk about, that will be in the resulting transcript.
Yeah, so that point, let's consider them primed. So at that point, then we need to think about, okay, what are we actually going to ask them? Now, the way we do it, and I really love doing this, is that I kind of have a structure. So really simple, nice little story arc. It's context. So it's who are you? What does your business do? Just as you'd expect. I'd like to get some stats up on the screen straight away. Who do you serve? What sectors? All that sort of stuff. Then it's pretty much pain. We like to labor that bit. It's like, how terrible was it before this MSP came along? How awful was it when you had the previous provider? Without rubbishing them, just in a very diplomatic way. And then we just talk about the kind of the moment at which you decided there was a light bulb moment you had to change, and then kind of what it's been like since you've started working with the new provider. Some nice, solid, tangible results, we call them. So we try and get some real, like, if we can get some revenue increase, time saved, whatever it might be, some real nice numbers to put on the screen. And then we talk a little bit about the onboarding as well. So that's actually, I've jumped ahead there. So the onboarding was before that. And then finally, recommendation to someone just like you. Just let us know, what would you say if someone was watching this? And I think that very simple structure is the one to follow. I give myself plenty of time, so I like listening for the threads. So like, I had one this morning, it was brilliant. No one had prepped me in the notes about this. The lady said, oh yeah, we had this other thing, this ransomware thing. I was like, hang on a minute. Right, tell me about that. Tell me to the actual morning you found out there's ransomware. She was like, oh, I turned it off, files are encrypted. I don't know what to do. I had no idea. We had no IT company, blah, blah, blah. And then you just follow that thread. But again, dial it back, and you can you don't need to do that. Just to get some social proof in a video format, in a text format, and we can talk about the value of that in search in a minute, but that capturing that story, you don't have to go as crazy as we do in our services.
And this comes back to the done is better than perfect. And if over time you get into the habit of routinely asking for and recording these testimonials, then over time you'll naturally get better at them. And so therefore the thing to do is to just start doing them.
You're absolutely right. That's it. And I know this is daunting for some people, and they're thinking, oh, it's an awful lot of hassle. And I hope I haven't painted it that way. I mean, it's definitely achievable. And I think the goal has to be a library on your site. You need to have six, I would say, as a bare minimum of stories on your site. And it's very easy these days to update a site or create a site in AI or whatever. You can do this so easily now, so that when a prospect comes to the site, they can go and they can say, right, who looks like me? Who's in my sector? Right. Okay, brilliant. And you mentioned it. It's almost like we're almost like building like a culture of this stuff. It's gone way beyond what I could have really imagined when I first started doing this, but you're kind of actually instilling a culture. It's like, right, okay, so yes, the marketing team wants these, but let's get the others involved as well. So we've got account managers, we've got the customer service people learning to, whenever they hear a positive sentiment, like your client did, they're happy with the work. Brilliant. Okay. If I just make that intro, I'm going to get an armful of content that is going to help me shorten my sales cycles, provide social proof on the website, help me have conversations every day. This is really going to help me as someone in a, whatever it is, business development, growth, marketing role. So it's just instilling that idea of, let's get this library. We're all working on this together. And that's the dream anyway. This may not be representative of the sort of some smaller MSPs, but some social proof there, particularly if you've got a focus sector. If you know you're going after accountants for the next 12 months, have you got any accountants case studies? I mean, you need to, quite simply.
And a great point there about the size of the MSP. And I'd say actually the smaller the MSP, probably instilling this culture is more important, because there is no dedicated marketeer in that smaller business. And the saying is everyone's in marketing. And if you're on a service desk taking calls, and there's an opportunity to capture that moment, then great. Makes it so much easier for the owner that does one of the hats they wear is marketing. Getting that as a lead is brilliant. So super.
Yeah, and particularly if you have something like, the only one that comes to mind is Customer Thermometer, because I know Mr. Mark Copeman, as I'm sure everyone does. So, but if you've got one of those customer feedback tools, that's absolutely perfect, because that's just you can set up an alert, and every time there's a customer with a great score, reach out in a friendly way. Just wondered if I could interest you in spending a few minutes with us to grab your feedback on how it's going. It's a no-brainer. It really is.
Yeah, and this is automatable as well. So our MSP listeners will be delighted to hear that it doesn't require them to take the action. The trigger is there, and just automate it.
Yeah, that can be a stumbling block, can't it? I mean, I guess that if we're being real about this, the stumbling block for the smaller MSPs is, what do they do with the content? So yes, when you get this, you do need to upload it to YouTube. You do need to embed it in a page on your site. Ideally, you do need to make sure that your team is aware of it. So when you're having conversations, they know that it's there. You're going to want to put it in a quote document. If you're sending out quotes regularly, definitely want to have something in there. You're going to want to, if you can, drop it on LinkedIn, potentially as an article there. There's a reason for that. So in terms of the movement in the SEO space, I'm sure everyone's familiar with this, but there's a big sort of transition at the moment from your standard sort of SEO searches that people are doing through to chat search now. So it's coming through ChatGPT, and I'm seeing sort of leads coming that way. And so LinkedIn being the number 2 cited platform, is it? Research cited. That's a great place to put your social proof. And the chat engines or chat search platforms, they absolutely love those transcripts that you get. So you can put transcripts on your site. You can have particular citations in there. So any sort of kind of stats. They love social proof. Funnily enough, obviously they're not watching the videos. So the video is kind of for the humans, but the text content is for the machines, should we say? But yeah, it's a real time to focus on getting some of that content on there. So we weren't really pushing this service as a sort of lead generation thing. This is kind of a deal cycle shortener. It nurtures conversations you're already having. But there's now a strong argument for, okay, people are actually going to find us through this stuff now. But going back to the point, yeah, someone does have to still do this stuff. Nothing comes for free, obviously.
And yeah, I guess you've kind of answered the last part about like what you do. So you recorded it, you've got your testimonial gold in the transcript, and then the repurposing then begins, and an MSP can do this whole process themselves if they've got the time and a process to follow, which we'll share that link in with this podcast, so listeners can go and grab the tools that you're very, very kindly sharing. And but yeah, it all needs to happen. It needs to be executed once you've got the recording. And you've talked about website, LinkedIn, social media, other social medias, YouTube, and I think earlier you mentioned about chopping up into lots of different formats as well. So presumably there's different video that you have on Instagram and different on LinkedIn, and presumably there's a checklist of here's what you now need to do to make all of these different assets.
Yeah, absolutely. There is. And it depends how far you want to go again, because I'm sure there's people listening to this thinking, well, I just have not got time for that. That's just too much. So you need to pick what level you're going to go to. But I'd say, yes, the shorts are enormously powerful. So we do sort of custom shorts. Everyone is like got its own animations and all that sort of stuff. You don't necessarily need to do that. You could put that in something like, there's a couple of tools that would definitely see you through. So you've got something like Descript. So you could actually upload the video to that. In fact, there's loads of these actually. If you just want to do the shorts, you've got Chopperty, numerous other ones that will just produce shorts. So you can actually even point it at YouTube links. So super easy. And it'll give you a whole load of shorts with the captions, and it will rate them based on what the impact of them was in terms of the content that's in them and stuff. So really straightforward to do. In terms of the edit, I would recommend, editing's got so much easier now. So there's still a real premium to pay for the top level editing, but the bar is now higher in terms of the entry, because it's things like CapCut. It's a free application. You can throw a video in there and just do the bare essentials, just a nice fade in, a nice fade out, and hopefully you've got some sort of, you can either just put your logo on a colored background and use that over and over again, so it's just got a nice little outro. But it's very easy just to take your probably 15-minute conversation and just chop it up, add captions. And yes, there'll be a bit of time in that, but you should comfortably be able to turn that around in half an hour. That's not a significant piece of work, and it's going to serve you for a long time. And that'll output the transcript as well for you. So there's different ways of doing that. But yeah, the time has never been better really for this stuff, because you do every week there's a new tool coming out that makes it easier to do stuff with content, transcripts, video, and so on. So yeah, we're in a good time for that repurposing motion.
And not that we're in any way sponsored by Descript, but this is being recorded on a Descript product, and we do use Descript for producing our podcast, and that very well known IT and Motorsport YouTube channel also is produced with Descript. So
I've not seen that one. What's that about?
Yeah, something about this funny chap with very little hair and something about cars.
Still waiting for that F1 call up. Yeah.
If
you're listening to it, I'm sure everyone's familiar with your channel. I don't know how much you pimp it out, but yeah, it's great. Isn't it lovely to see fresh content coming out that's kind of just a little bit different from the norm? Yeah, definitely go check out IT and Motorsport. Give you a little plug there.
Perhaps we'll have you as a guest on that channel quicker than we did have you on the It's a Numbers Game podcast.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know if my current ride is up to that level, but there is a motorhome, which could be quite interesting. So maybe we can talk about that sometime.
Indeed. And on that bombshell, we've pretty much reached our budget in terms of time for the episode. I can't thank you enough. There's so much value in that for our listeners, loads of hints and tips. And I guess if anyone is interested in talking further, has questions, how best to carry on the conversation with you?
Yeah, super easy. So msptestimonials.com. Feel free to go there. That's got loads of examples of the work. I've tried to make it so that on the site it's all self-explanatory. If you're interested in going down that route, please check it out. The pricing and everything's all there as well. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn, James Steele. Just come reach out to me. What should we make the link, Daniel, for this toolkit that I'm going to upload? So I'll do / what's a nice one to remember? Have you got an acronym for?
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. Right. Okay. That's a nice long URL, but we'll go for that one. It's easy to remember. So msptestimonials.com / it's a numbers game. And I'll make sure there's plenty in there. So the email outreach steps, the story arc, what to say when you're on the call, and a recording guide at the very least. And I've got some other assets as well. I can't quite think of off the top of my head, but plenty to help you out there.
Brilliant. And I'll probably be the first one using those assets for our new testimonial.
I would love that. I'd love that. I'd like to see it through. That would be great. And yeah, obviously give us a shout if you want any help with that one.
Sounds like at least a second podcast episode.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love that. Let's do it. Preferably, we'll do the next one at a racetrack though. That feels like a better way to go.
Okay. Definitely no arguments here.
Good stuff. No, thanks so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it as always. And yeah, appreciate you making the time for me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right. All the best.